Get snake bit at the snake pit. You just gotta join the armada and spot what's hot or not. I'm David Hood of the Diplomacy Broadcast Network, and this is Deadline, DBN's monthly news program. Dateline, January 2024. For our feature story, just about this time last year, we created a new segment on our show called Hot or Not, in which three hobby personalities were asked to pass on the hipness of various persons, places, or things in the world of diplomacy. Well, folks, they're back. Later in this program, you will hear from these three self-appointed arbiters of hobby orthodoxy as to just exactly what is hot and what is, well, not. But first, a look at headlines from around the world of diplomacy. First, from the world of virtual face-to-face play. The fourth annual Virtual Diplomacy Championship, the VDC, was just completed on the VWDC Discord server. Australian phenom and 2023 World DipCon champ Jamal Blakarli took the title of the VDC this year, adding this World Championship title to the one he garnered for his face-to-face victory back in August. Of course, the automatic bid to the DBNI was wasted on Jamal, who had already had a bid from the World DipCon victory. Fellow Australian and past DBNI winner Peter McNamara came in second, with 2023 DipCon winner Michalis Kamarites of the UK taking the third position. There were 6 preliminary rounds played over the weekend of January 12th through 14th, starting at various times of the day and night to facilitate play on the Backstabber website, regardless of where you were in the world. For those not familiar, virtual face-to-face involves play on Backstabber with negotiations taking place over audio channels within Discord. Thanks to Liam Stokes and his able team of GMs for running this year's event. And of course, you can watch the stream from DBN, which provided full coverage of the action using the link provided below. In face-to-face tournament news, by the time you see this episode, it will likely be too late for you to register for this year's North American Diplomacy Championship held the first weekend of February near Vancouver, British Columbia, in conjunction with the Cascadia tournament. Other upcoming DIP events include one at OwlCon 2024 on Saturday, February 24th at 8 p.m. OwlCon is a general gaming convention taking place that weekend at Rice University in downtown Houston. The first OwlCon was actually held in 1981. It will also be a Learn to Play event the night before. That's Friday, February 23rd at 8 p.m. That same weekend, there will be a DIP event at PresCon in Charlottesville, Virginia. And then the Melbourne Open in Australia will take place March the 2nd and 3rd at Fortress Melbourne, which is a game store. You can contact Andrew Goff for more information using acgolf@hotmail.com or by visiting the Australian Diplomacy Facebook page that I have linked below. And then, of course, the NADF circuit starts back up with the longest running event on the West Coast, Whipping, held this year in San Francisco, California, March 22nd through 24th. Whipping has hosted the North American DipCon twice and will be the site of the World DipCon in 2025. See the links provided below. Diplomacy World, our hobby's flagship publication, just celebrated 50 years of being in print with the release of its winter 2023 edition, issue 164. The magazine began publication in January 1974 under the leadership of hobby legend Walt Buchanan, with current publisher Doug Kent now being at the helm remarkably since 1995. This particular issue of DW features an article by Malarkey about the contents of that issue 1 from 1974. It also includes interviews with both 2024 DipCon organizer Chris Brand and 2024 World DipCon director Davide Cleopadre. We also have a retrospective on the year of the Renegade game release and teaching events by Thomas Haver, and a whole lot more. If you've not contributed to this very important hobby institution, there's no time like the present. Use the link below to read the current issue and then pitch an article or feature idea to Doug Kent so that your work can appear in the spring 2024 edition, which is due out in early April. And now let's check in on the goings-on in European diplomacy. The virtual hobbies in France, Holland, and Germany are pooling their resources to start a new virtual league entitled the 7 Years' War. They've announced that the league will be monthly and collectively organized by leaders in the French, Dutch, and German hobbies. Apart from games in each of the 3 respective national languages, there will also be international boards using English as the language of negotiation, so everyone is welcome to join in. At the end of the year, there will be a top board to determine the league championship. The first 2 game days are January 29th, starting at 5 p.m. GMT, and that's with boards in English and German, and then on February 10th at 9 a.m. GMT, with boards to be run in English and in Dutch. In keeping with the 7 Years' War theme, all the games in this league will end in 1907. You need to get on Discord and then DM at Sheringford, Sheringford, or at Varenskop, Varkenskop, if you'd like to participate. Or you can join the VWDC Discord server using the link below and then navigate to any of the general chat areas to announce your interest. Someone will respond and get you to the right place to enter the 7 Years' War. Every month, we like to survey the recent output from the many diplomacy media outlets, which we call our DBN media partners. First up this month, the Diplomacy Games podcast from Ken and Gavin down in Australia have released episode 124 of their podcast, featuring an interview with Michigan hobbyist Russ Dennis, the founder of the Diplomacy Briefing newsletter. Russ provides some interesting background about the early days of the briefing and also forecasts the briefing's upcoming Diplomacy Hobby Awards nomination process for the 2023 awards season. Also, Florida Man released a video on his YouTube channel a few weeks ago, diving into a not very common topic, the idea of an Anglo-Turkish alliance in diplomacy. He discusses the obvious common target being Russia, the ways in which this alliance can blossom in the mid-game, and the extent to which the expected end-game might be a two-way draw versus something else. You can use the links below to visit these DBN media partners. And stay tuned just a few minutes longer to see Florida Man himself join this episode of Deadline during the Hot or Not segment. Well, we've already heard news of a new virtual league forming in Europe. I'm also here to announce that the second edition of the Australian-based virtual league, Snake Pit 2.0, will be starting its season on January 28th. This league focuses on hosting games friendly to Asia-Pacific and Australian time zones. Games will run on one of the later Sundays of each month at 0730 UTC. This season's Snake Pit will be scored not only for league championship honors, but also for those that need that extra kicker, DBNI points for the 2024 season. They'll be on the table. The length of Snake Pit games will be approximately 5 hours, so about 1908 or so in terms of game years. And for a bit of extra fun, they're going to allow negotiation during builds and retreat phases, but only publicly over the game table. So head on over to the Snake Pit Discord server using the invite below and stay tuned for more information. The games will be announced both there and on the VWDC Discord server about 3 to 4 weeks prior to each game day. Also, a piece of late breaking news, the Tour of Britain virtual face-to-face league will start up again on March the 9th under the capable leadership of Gary Sterling. Join the VWDC Discord server using the link below, and you can navigate to the Tour of Britain space for more information. In news from the world of online extended deadline diplomacy, the fact that the playdiplomacy.com website was recently hacked and thus lost its forum function has not stopped PlayDip aficionados from starting a new league. We here at DBN would like to extend a shout out to the Play Diplomacy League run by @MasterGR, who is starting the new 2024 season specifically on PlayDip as the platform. You can find more information over on the Play Diplomacy Discord server under the category PDL, which stands for Play Diplomacy League. If you are interested in playing league games, you can join with the link below. But the server also has spaces for overall discussion, for face-to-face organizing, for formulation of live online games and other features. Please find that relevant link below. In this month's club and association news, the Association of Rocky Mountain Area Diplomacy Adversaries, the Armada, continue to host regular game days for both classic and variant play in and around their home base in the Denver, Colorado area. In early January, one game of regular dip ended in a three-way EAR draw in 1908, while the other was an escalation variant game won by Armada organizer Manas Hand himself. The club has what they call the South Coast and North Coast events based on geography, with a South Coast game currently scheduled for February 24th at 11 a.m. in Highlands Ranch, Colorado. They will also be hosting an event on February 17th at Genghis Khan in Aurora, Colorado. For more information on all things Armada, join their Facebook page using the link below and make plans now to attend their annual convention, the Regatta, which will be taking place this July. And now let's do our yearly check-in with the president of the North American Diplomacy Federation, Zachary Moore, to talk about highlights from the past diplomacy season and what he's looking forward to for 2024. Hello, Zach, and welcome back to Deadline, a show which is way better on DBN than Ed Sullivan's back channel has ever been.
Certainly has a better looking host, David.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, so you've just finished the year 2023 as president of the North American Diplomacy Federation. So what was that like?
It was fast, David. It flew by. Siobhan was president, feels like just yesterday, and then she apparently got early parole because of having a kid or something, and then I was thrust into the role, but it flew by. We had the AI revolution. People will forget that started right here in North American diplomacy. We had a couple of big marquee events that I'll talk about throughout this interview, including one that you may have been involved with, or your twin may have run it for you. We don't know.
Hard to tell.
And we had a big changing of the guard, not just with myself coming in, but Katie Gray, Liam Stokes, and Nicolas Sahuguet entering the DBN board, all for their first year, and then Riaz Virani, the veteran.
You mean the NADF board?
The NADF board, yes, was a whole new cast with Riaz Virani being the only holdover other than myself on there. So a lot of new energy, a lot of new stuff going on, and a lot of AI.
Yeah, and maybe more AI than people even know. I mean, again, how would they know?
You'll never know.
So when you mention your board members, so there's 4 board members plus the president, right, for the North American Diplomacy Federation?
Yep, you got it. All 4 board members serve 2-year terms. And so Riaz Virani just wrapped up his 2nd year. We're saying goodbye to him actually today. Katie Gray, Liam Stokes, and Nicolas Sahuguet all came into their board positions this year, and we're all excited to kind of take on their little mini board member projects. They got a good dose of everything: the ups, the downs, the stress of having to be involved with some of the less fun parts of the board. But we're glad to have them. It was a Canadian majority, by the way, on the board, which is worth noting. I don't know why, but just something to be aware of.
So what you're saying is it was a nice board.
It was a nice board. Canadian majority, Minnesotan president. It was about as passive as you could get. Our meetings were 3 hours.
You betcha. So do you have another incoming board member to announce, or is that still being worked on?
We do. Actually, as of just a few hours before recording, Johnny Gillum has agreed to take Riaz's spot. He will be our incoming board member for 2024. Johnny Gillum is the founder of the New York City Diplo Rats Diplomacy Club. He got really involved during the 2020 virtual boom of diplomacy, and has been attending tournaments regularly since they opened back up, doing a good job running his club, and we're excited to have him.
Yeah, that's a great addition. So, from your point of view, what were the highlights of 2023 from the diplomacy in the world of diplomacy?
One of them, Mr. Hood, was North American Dip Con, as it is every year, and this time it was in your backyard at Dixie Con. It was an excellent event. You always get the longtime hobby luminaries from the 60s and 70s, the ones who play baseball, like card games, in between rounds. We had an excellent WDC in Bangkok that ended in the most dramatic fashion possible. A resurgence in local clubs. I talk about New York, but there's another one in your neck of the woods, David, the North Carolina Diplomacy Club. I don't know if they have a name yet, but they have been furiously organizing. It seems like at least once a month they've got a game going. New York has been going strong. Denver has seen more activity than any local club since I joined the hobby in 2016. They're taking off in Denver. And then I know it's NADF, but outside of the United States, we have clubs forming in the Netherlands, pretty regular German language games, and an Australian virtual league just launched. So a lot of local parochial play, as they would say.
Yeah, those are definite highlights. There's no question about it. From a looking at it maybe from the other perspective, are there any challenges from the year that you would like to highlight, or maybe opportunities for us as a hobby to do better in any particular subjects?
Yeah, every time I can get on my soapbox here, I'll talk about what I feel like is the constant challenge in our hobby. It's the 2024 challenge, same as the 2023, same as 2022, and it'll be here in 2025. It's finding where the next wave of organizing energy is going to come from. A lot of our tournament directors in the NADF have been doing this for a long time, been running their events for a long time, and it's hard to keep that up without a team helping you out. And the team, as people, you yourself know this, I'm sure everyone who's been running tournaments for a decade plus will know that the teams kind of come and go. The supporting cast kind of comes and goes in waves. We had a thing in 2022 where Sabia Huja was basically flying out to every tournament to be assistant TD during that year, and that's not really sustainable for anybody. So it's finding the next wave of energy. Where is the next crop of? We talk about the next crop of players, but where's the next crop of organizers going to come from to take the burden off of the long timers, to share the load with the TDs? I think Denver's been doing a great job of that with their regatta. They have kind of a committee that they use. I know you've had help with Dixie, but the Dave Maletskis of the world are gonna be crushed under the weight of their own sombrero if we don't get them some help out there. So it always comes, I think, but this is kind of my yearly, maybe a couple times a year call. That's the big challenge, not just for running diplomacy tournaments and clubs, but I think about who's going to fill key spots in the diplomacy world. That's a long-standing hobby publication, one of the most important institutions we have. They always have vacancies, staff vacancies. They're always looking for help. Doug Kent, bless his heart, he's been doing that since I was in diapers, I think, and we got to have an heir apparent for him. I'm sure he would love to get more editors, more content creators, more people just sending in articles. The briefing, I think, same story. That's every week. How are we going to keep that going? It's kind of the constant challenge in our hobby, is just where's that next wave coming from?
Yeah, there's no question about it. And if you're listening to this, guess who he's talking to? You. It's true. It's actually true. All right, well, let's pivot a minute and talk about the new Renegade set, the new Renegade Diplomacy version that came out back in the summer. How important do you think that development has been for the hobby?
It's been very important. It's a great set. I think everybody's excited about the wood pieces coming back. I think everybody likes the board dimensions. Some of the things they did with the quick start rules seem very, very popular. some of the ways they built that out to kind of make it friendlier for new players. And even more important than the set, I think, from what I've witnessed, is the impact that the new edition has had on the energy that Renegade is putting into the game, or the producer, is putting into the game. Where now that Renegade is in, along with Tom Haver, who you've had on this show, who wrote in Diplomacy World a little recap of the Renegade year in the most recent issue, they've poured a ton into these gaming convention learn to play events around the country. And from what I hear, they're going to be doubling down on those efforts in 2024, a whole slate, something like 8, 10, maybe 12 events around the country going around. And they're good. It's overdue. It's great for us to have Diplomacy back in gaming conventions, where it always should have been. It always should be. Frankly, I think it should be the only game at gaming conventions.
All right
now. And I'll tell you that from my experience, I've already seen multiple players who came into our neck of the woods, our kind of region corner of the hobby, through Renegade, whether it be attending a Learn to Play event, whether it be just finding Renegade Discord, maybe through buying the box set. Definitely a couple players have come through that and gotten involved in face-to-face tournaments, in virtual play. I think as the rollout continues, you're going to see more crossover between Renegade World and competitive Diplomacy World.
Let's hope so. Speaking of the virtual and the face-to-face and also the extended deadline aspects of the hobby, how do you think we're doing in terms of integrating the players who start in any one of those and making sure that we sort of connect and communicate and play with each other?
Overall, pretty successful, David. I think there is room for improvement. One thing I would love to do, and that I've been trying to do, is get some more face-to-face players to give virtual a try. I think I'm tempted to always think of integration as towards face-to-face, but really integration is everybody trying a little bit of everything. And there's a certain segment of our players who really don't love spending time on computers. They're never going to get into the online or virtual play, and that's totally understandable. But I think there's another group of these, face-to-face primary players that would very much enjoy using virtual and extended deadline as a way to keep in touch with those people that, for now they only see once a year at these tournaments. I think you talk to people who are very involved in both, and they'll tell you how rewarding it is when they get to a face-to-face tournament to have maintained these relationships throughout the year through other means. So I'm hoping to make that case to more face-to-face players. I think extended deadline has always been kind of a little further away from virtual and face-to-face than they are to each other. But I think that gap is closing, especially as the organizers of extended deadline get to know the face-to-face organizers and the virtual organizers a little bit better. So I'm optimistic for more crossover there. I think one thing I'd love for the NADF to be able to do is find a way to promote extended deadline play in this upcoming year. How can we help them, and how can we kind of keep in regular contact with them to find out where we have opportunities to promote each other's formats?
Yeah, that particularly might be important, given that Play Diplomacy being hacked means they've lost their forum function completely on Play Diplomacy, which is only one of the websites, but it's an important one. And it's possible that we might be able to help facilitate communication between those players now that they've lost their primary organ for communication.
Right. We've got the setup. We've got the modes of communication. It's always tough adjusting. It's always tough getting to a new kind of form of communication. You're used to a forum. Getting to Discord is weird, but if it's what it takes, it's what we got to do.
Yeah. Well, let's look forward into 2024 further. So are there particular events or projects or trends that you're looking for this year?
Yeah, I'd say, right off the bat, DipCon in Vancouver is right around the corner. That's going to be a great event run by run by Riaz Virani and Matt Krill and Brand. I might have just thrown Krill's name in there. I don't know if he actually runs it. But Riaz Virani and Chris Brand are the two I should have said. That's going to be a really, really good event. Those two have been in the hobby for a long time. They know how to run a great event. Siobhan thinks she's going to win. So seeing the look on her face when she doesn't will be a real treat to everybody. I've heard rumblings of a pool round potentially happening at Carnage this year. That's going to be a can't miss event. One of the most exciting things we're going to see in 2024. More growth for local clubs. I'm predicting at least 1 3-board club day for Regatta at the rate they're going. That'll be a big day in the hobby. And another one is kind of started on your show, David. Jamal Blackerly, world champion. He talked about on your show a goal that I think we've all shared for a while, which is an interest in diversifying kind of the pool of diplomacy hobbyists. And it's been something that's been talked about for a while, and it's tough to, round the troops to put together a concentrated effort just because it's tough work and everybody is busy. So I'm excited to see where his passion and his energy goes on that, and if that's something that can really get some focus that we've been wanting to put on it for a while.
That's well said. If there are folks watching this who want to get more involved in your efforts and the NADF's efforts to grow and develop the hobby, how do they start it? How do they get started doing that?
Yeah, a couple things. The number one thing that I've learned from being involved in the hobby is if you build it, they really will come. Look at what the Olympus Discord server has become. That was started by this guy Bob's a Builder. You've had him on your show, I believe, Nicholas Spencer. He just had an idea, and he started it, and he poured a lot of effort into it. And I don't think a ton of people knew who he was before he did that. And now it's the biggest thing, as far as I can tell, in extended deadline diplomacy. They just went onto Backstabber and created public games and used the public games to invite people to their community and built this really great thing that a lot of people love. So my advice to people is, if you have an idea, share your idea in one of our many public forum servers, start working on it. And I think what you'll find is that even if you're going at it alone at first, when other people kind of get the idea and they see your passion for it, people are going to get on board and want to be a part of it and want to help and participate in that. So if you're the type of person that can show that initiative, just jump in. If not, contact me, and I've got 1,000 open hobby roles that I can plug you into without needing your own idea, whether it be editor for Diplomacy World, helping me with the NADF website, just get involved in recruiting, get involved in coding, whatever skills you have. There's an organizer that can use it, I think.
Yeah, that's so important. You don't have to come in and save the world by yourself, but just coming in and contributing is really helpful to our hobby if people are willing to do that.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I have a personal question for you, Zachary Moore. Are you going to actually start acting presidential this year? And if so, what does that look like for you to act presidential?
I will certainly act presidential in the sense of, you've seen like the Saturday Night Live opening monologues where an actor is portraying a president. That's acting presidential. So a lot of loud gestures, freewheeling, making things up on the fly. I think a lot of acting presidential in that sense. I think my wardrobe will expand in variety, but contract in actually coverage. So that'll be a big thing.
More skin is what I'm hearing. Is more skin.
I think so. I think that would be presidential to just kind of a power move. That's big. That's what a president does. Executive. Might do some pounding my fist on the table, David, and I might get a little involved in divide and conquer, if I can find a way, and probably an extrajudicial punishment for that Jordan Connors who keeps besmirching your name on this show.
All I've got to say on that one is here. And it's about time that the president realized the threat that certain people pose. All right. Well, how about some final thoughts for our deadline audience, if you have any?
Final thoughts for the deadline audience. We have virtual diplomacy championships. It's too late for that. This won't be out in time. Congratulate the winner when you read this. Read Diplomacy World. Actually, read Diplomacy World. That's a great read. If you have to check out something, the new edition came out in January. Go to Cascadia. It's not too late to book your tickets. Go to David's event, Dixie. What do we got?
Whipping. We got the whipping
around the corner in April. Yep. San Jose, the Bay Area. That's a long.
I think you moved to say it's in San Francisco this year.
Francisco now?
San Jose.
Okay, San Francisco now. And tell Johnny thank you for joining the NADF board. That's thankless. Tell your GMs and your TDs thank you, and be kind to one another. That's the final thoughts.
Those are good thoughts. Let me just throw in the regatta in July, Liberty Cup in early October, and of course Carnage in November. I'm trying to think if we're forgetting any of the face-to-face events. Of course, we'll also have the Summer Classic this summer, and I believe that Peter McNamara is starting a third virtual tournament, virtual-only tournament, which will take place in late April.
He is. Late April for that. I think he's settled on the last weekend, and the Moot in September is my personal.
All right. Yes, indeed.
That's
indeed.
my tournament. Chicago, always a great event.
Yes. So lots and lots to keep up with, and we appreciate you being at the helm to help us keep up with.
Thank you, David, for spreading the good word.
All right. We'll see you around, NADF President Zachary Moore. And now for our feature presentation. In January 2023, we started a new feature here on Deadline, a yearly review of what is hot and what is not in our big old diplomacy hobby. Back again to take the hobby's temperature are three, let's just call them personalities and leave it at that. First, you have the clown prince of the UK hobby, Christopher Wardy Ward, joined again by YouTube host Douglas Rintoul, otherwise known as Florida Man, who does not, in fact, live in Florida, so deal with that. And of course, he of many nicknames, the Massachusetts Mystery, the international man of intrigue himself, Mr. Tommy Two-Timing Anderson. Well, welcome back to Hot or Not, everyone. As you may recall, I'm about to give each of you a person or topic related to our game or hobby, and you are going to give me a vote on whether the subject is hot or not, and then you are going to give me penetrating and persuasive analysis to support your choice. After your other two panelists have a chance to chime in on that subject, then I'll start a new topic with the next person. Now, folks at home, remember, these three reprobates have absolutely no advanced knowledge of what I'm about to chuck at them. And this will probably become clear in their responses, but still no advanced knowledge. All right, guys, you ready to go?
Absolutely.
All right. Wardy, I'm going to start with you. Our first subject on hot or not is the following. Jamal Blackharley winning the Bangkok World Diplomacy Championship, the WDC in Bangkok, hot or not?
Oh, definitely hot. I can't remember who it was that he beat to a pulp, but it was great to see Jamal lift the trophy, wear the belt, be champion. I've played with him. I don't know him super well. I've played him a few times, and he seems like a really nice guy. And it's good to see someone from the Asia Pacific part of the world winning on home turf as well.
Well, I believe that everyone is screaming at their screen right now saying it was Brandon Fogel that he edged out for the WDC. I think that's what everyone is saying.
That's not a name I know, I'm afraid.
You're not familiar with Brandon. Well, I can understand. He's somewhat obscure. But Jamal is not. He's now the World Diplomacy Champion. Tommy, any thoughts about this one?
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of playing with him like once or twice. Always very congenial, very nice player. That's really exciting to see.
Yeah.
I
How
like
about
new
you?
other winners. Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah. How about you, Douglas? Jamal Bill Carley from Australia. I think he lives in Canberra, if I remember correctly.
I was just gonna say it's always hot to crown a new world diplomacy champion. Like that's by default. Good for him, and you can see the look on his face of great enthusiasm in this photo, looking like he just won the world heavyweight championship. Which
Less enthusiasm from Dan Lester having to give up his title there on the right. Seems to be. I'm trying not to read too much into that, but I'm not sure Lester didn't want to repeat, and he did not. All right, Douglas, let's go to your next subject, which is the recent hack of playdiplomacy.com that has now shut down the forum and other aspects of the website. Hot or not, this recent hack.
Oh, David, so not hot. So not hot. It's it hurts my soul, it shakes my faith, it makes me shake my head. I don't know. I've been a loyal playdiplomacy.com devotee for a decade plus, and I don't know. I might go on over to Backstabber or something. This is horrible and embarrassing, and makes it a lot less fun to play on the site if you don't know if it's going to go down. It's not like this is the first or second time this has ever happened. So
Yeah, but if you really want to get into some good gambling, you can now see that on the site, right? The gambling ads. So there's the positive. Tommy, have you ever played on Play Diplomacy?
I think like once, but I like gambling too, so I can work with that.
Maybe the site may have gotten hotter for you and not for Doug. Gordy, how about you? Have you ever been a Play Diplomacy guy?
Yeah, I played a bunch of games on not loads, but a fair few of friendly games on Playdip, as well as playing in the ODC. So I was familiar with going to the forum for news and stuff. And I should say that Chris Woolger et al., who made the SpireCon event in Chesterfield in the UK happen about 15, 16 months ago. That came off the back of a lot of connections made on that site and news spread via that forum. So it's a great loss. And honestly, it beggars belief why a small minority of idiots want to just ruin everyone else's fun.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. One thing to keep in mind, there is a Discord server for Playdip people, which some of the discussion has moved to, although it is a far cry from the forum that has now been shut down by the hack. All right, Tommy, let's go to your first subject, and it is the death of Henry Kissinger, perhaps diplomacy's biggest fan. The death of Henry Kissinger, hot or not, as a subject?
Not so hot. It's funny that you mentioned this, because actually it's not funny because that is not funny. But I was talking with my Grammy the other day. She's almost approaching his age as well. She's in her 90s, and she was like, she saw on the news. She's like, "Oh, Henry, it's like that game you play, diplomacy, that guy that who likes it as well, like Henry Kissinger, like he died." And I'm like, yeah, no, it's really unfortunate. So yeah, not so hot. I would have loved to have, because considering his world experience, seeing at the table, knowing he's talking literally he actually has actual consequences to what the decisions that he's making. So I'd be very curious to see how he would view the game.
Now, I should say that in some hobby media lately, there's been a lot of question about whether the Henry Kissinger connection to diplomacy is for real.
Oh,
so that would be the killjoys that started that, or Russ Dennis and perhaps the guys at the Diplomacy Games podcast. Douglas, Henry Kissinger, a loss to diplomacy or not? Is it hot or not?
Definitely a terrible loss to diplomacy. I mean, I don't know if I don't know if you should be playing diplomacy with real nations, but I do think that Henry Kissinger was certainly the most famous and notable living person to be known as a diplomacy enthusiast. I'm not surprised that now there are people, coming out saying that they aren't sure if he really was a diplomacy enthusiast. Now he can no longer defend himself.
Yeah.
Well, it's true. Wardy, do you think it matters if he was actually a diplomacy fan, or just the fact that his name was connected to diplomacy was a good thing, wasn't it?
It couldn't have hurt, surely. As the token Brit, I don't know an awful lot about 1970s to 1990s US politics, but I can tell you that even as a non-American, we know who Henry Kissinger is, and a giant of world politics, world diplomacy. Not world champion, unlike Jamal Bakali.
True.
But I'd like to think that that he did dabble, just so that me repeating that the fact wouldn't be a fib, wouldn't be another stab on the world. But it's good to have someone that people know to sort of pin it to and try and legitimize the game to those who have never heard of it before, which is really helpful. I read that interesting piece in the briefing you alluded to there. I haven't listened to the Ambien Kana episode on it, but I will try and get around to that because I'll be interested in learning more.
Well, it's fun because Amby had sent a letter to Kissinger in one episode right before Kissinger died. He was actually going to send him a letter saying, "Can you confirm that you're a diplomacy fan?" And then Kissinger passed away. It was a bizarre coincidence.
Oh, wow.
But what I'm mainly hearing from you is that
what are you trying to suggest there, David?
Well, I'm not suggesting. I'm throwing it out there for total speculation and for innuendo and rumor is what I'm doing. But putting that aside for a minute, what I'm hearing is that Henry Kissinger and Brandon Fogel are in the same category. People who have not won World Cup.
Oh, shade.
All right, let's go to let's go back to you, Wardy. And the next question is opening to St. Petersburg. This is a picture from St. Petersburg. Russia opening to St. Petersburg, spring 1901. Hot or not?
I'm going to say hot. I don't do it very often, but I have been trying to do it more regularly. What did bite me in a game not too long ago is when I did that, but then Germany opened to Prussia and Silesia. That perhaps has made me question the validity in some circumstances, but no, I quite like it. It gives you as long as you can get Austria on side, then it gives you a foothold in the north and can perhaps play in both spheres. But as Russia, you've got to hold at least one of those spheres diplomatically anyway.
Yeah, that happened to me too recently. I played with like the or what do you call it? The VDL, but like the early morning, I played like the 3 a.m. Eastern time, and they all just like completely. I was Russia. They all piled on me completely. I was just like, you know what? Like I was being nice, playing with you guys today. Like really.
Well, let me be clear that I know this opening doesn't work if you don't do a good job negotiating with Germany. I know that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Douglas,
and I did.
What's your thought, Douglas?
I think this is hot. I think it obviously does require that expert hand behind Russia that we know of, but frankly, Russia is a country that does much better with a really strong and active diplomat anyway. So I think this is a hot opening. It's that way of getting your influence felt in both areas of the board early on, and I think that it was hot when I started in the hobby. It's hot now.
Okay. Well, speaking of openings, Douglas, let's start with you here. Anybody but Italy opening to the beautiful area of Tyrolia. Italy's obviously kind of a sort of a standard move, but anybody else opening to Tyrolia, the Germans, the Austrians, is that hot or is it not?
Oh, I'm going to go with not. I mean, there are some very clever plays that involve opening to Tyrolia, But generally, I'm going to go with not. The only way I think that Austria should be opening to Tyrolia is if Austria is anticipating bouncing with Italy there. And if Germany opens there, then what I expect is that Germany is going to be way too focused in the East early on. Germany is not Russia. Germany shouldn't be doing that, because Germany's influence in the East early on should be just about keeping Russia in line, not about, whatever kind of tampering with Austria and Italy is going on.
Well, and how can they have time to go to Tyrolia when they should be going to Silesia and Prussia against Wardy? That to me. Tommy, what do you think about somebody opening to Tyrolia, putting the Italians aside for a minute? Anybody else opening Tyrolia, what do you think?
I kind of like it personally, because I just because you know me, the whole tornado-y bit. I like to just throw a
really. That's what you're into. I had no idea.
It keeps it interesting because you can kind of come back, be like, well, I feel like I've worn this bone thin, in terms of saying hey, I didn't really mean it, but they know now that I actually meant it. And so I just kind of try to navigate around it.
All right, Wardy, you give us your opinion on this, hot or not?
Oh, I kind of like it. As Germany, though, not Austria. I found out in a gunboat game why it's not a good idea to open there as Austria. No, I don't do it often as Germany. I probably do it a little more often than the Moscow to St. Petersburg, to be honest. But yeah, just to have your fingers in as many pies as you can. Just influence gives you an excuse to chat. It's often that if you think someone else is going to move there, you don't want them. You don't want a French army in Burgundy and a Italian army in Tyrolia, for instance. If you think that might be troublesome, and it's less aggressive than going to Burgundy probably, and more likely to be successful. No, I quite like it.
So, Douglas, you need to keep this in mind the next time you play Tommy or Ward.
I'll make sure to.
These are the answers they're giving. All right, Tommy, I'm over to you now on the question of openings, and the question is back to Italy now. Okay. Italy opening to Piedmont. This is a picture of the wonderful area of Piedmont in Western Italy. What do you think about the Italians opening to Piedmont?
I kind of like it too, because as Italy, I'm just trying to also me with chaos in general, but I really like to just keep the biggest problem, I guess, is trying to figure out how do you move forward, talking with those around you, because if you're gonna do it, you have to commit to it, but then you have to figure out what are you gonna say? You have to kind of backtrack what you were saying to them, or do you tell them you're going to do it? If you can get away with telling that you're going to do it, that works amazing.
What do you say, Wardy?
I'm not a huge fan. I need more convincing on this. I've tried it a couple of times recently, and the jury's still out. This is as Italy. As France, no. But as Italy,
no.
I need more convincing. I'm going to say not.
All right, so you're actually going to the not. Douglas, break the tie here. We've got one hot, one not for opening to Piedmont as the Italians.
I might be crazy. To me, this is hot.
Yes.
As Italy, I think that one of your earliest priorities should be to harass and harm France if possible. So if you can, if you think you might be able to nudge England and or Germany into fighting France, if you're willing to take this early step against them, I think it's worth it. And I think you're going to have the French player pulling his hair out.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing, I guess, is what you're trying to say?
Of course.
All right. Well, let's go back then to Christopher Ward. And I'm just going to go ahead and say some of these next questions are literally personal challenges. All right. Personal challenge to you, Christopher Ward. who is going to take leadership in the UK about getting some kind of face-to-face action going? Because there was SpireCon, which didn't happen this year. You've got the London Diplomacy Club people talking. You've got Stephen Agar and his sort of older zine-based players talking about getting together. Who is going to take leadership and have a UK organized hobby? Christopher Ward.
I'll tell you what,
it's not going to be any of these political parties. I'm just letting you know.
It's going to be one of two people at the moment. Stephen Agar or Bradley Grace. I think Bradley's keen to get something going. We may even see a return to Gary Sturley's tournament, so we'll see how that goes. But we didn't quite get anything off the ground in the autumn, so I'm keen to get playing.
All right, Douglas or Tommy, any thoughts about the relative disarray of the UK face-to-face scene, other than what Wardy has said?
I don't know. Sorry.
I mean, I'm glad that they're doing stuff in London, but don't get me wrong. But I don't know how regular even that is.
I used to watch Prime Minister's Questions, but that's probably not applicable to this.
I also used to watch that primarily to hear the accents. That's primarily the reason that I would agree. Yeah,
that's why I liked it.
I'm gonna automatically agree with Wardy because I don't live in Britain and don't know what's going on there, and I don't know. Maybe you do, and also I did want to throw in a postscript about the Kissinger topic very briefly. First, I believe he was at some point voted most admired man in America in the 70s or 60s. And two is that I recently read a biography of Elon Musk. Apparently he is also, or was also, a fan of diplomacy.
Yeah.
For good or for ill, I would think it would be the question.
Get him in the hobby.
Yeah. All right. Douglas Rentoul, personal challenge to you. When are you going to stop avoiding me? The last time I was on your show was like 3 years ago. Can't get you to come to DixieCon. You won't go. I haven't seen you at DipCon. Why are you avoiding me, Florida man? This still was from like 3 or 4 years ago. That's the last time I was on your show.
So are you asking me if this is hot?
I'm issuing a personal challenge to you, and you can consider that either not hot or very hot. That I'm considering this personal challenge. Why are you avoiding me, hot or not?
So this sounds very hot. Definitely not avoiding you, sir. I would love to have you back on my YouTube channel, and I'm sure we could do some pretty good numbers if we do another video. I wouldn't say I'm avoiding you. I just I end up missing a lot of competitions.
I mean, I'm hearing excuses, but you're saying this is hot. Okay, I'll go with that. Tommy Anderson, personal challenge to you.
Oh no!
Yes, I think you've seen this. Before. Tommy,
I swear to God,
are you really going to go to any events this year at all?
I promise. Oh God, you have it right there. I am totally promising. This year.
Tell me what promises we're hearing now. January of 2020.
What's the first one coming up? Tell me that one at least.
Cascadia.
There's the DipCon in Cascadia in about 3 or 4 weeks.
You know what? I'm going to make a promise right here, right now.
Yes.
I'm going to book a flight right now. This is in Canada, right? Yeah.
That's correct. Vancouver is in Canada. Yes.
Yeah.
That is true.
Okay. I swear right after this, I'm going to book it. I actually really am.
All right. I think that would be great if there was any truth to it. And then there's also whipping coming up in San Francisco. There's DixieCon in North Carolina.
I prefer to stay in the U.S., but whipping and Dixie I would like.
We're just trying to take stock of the promises.
Sorry, are you already breaking your promise on Cascadia?
Okay,
that lasted about 10 seconds.
It has 12 seconds.
I'll go to Cascadia. Okay, I swear. You know what? I'm going right after this. I'm going to book it, and I'm going to send you the itinerary, and you'll see. I promise.
All right. Douglas, Hot or not, that promise. Hot or not. Let's hear it.
I think it might be hot in the
It
sense
could,
that
it could be.
it's either true or actually it's definitely hot because it's either true, in which case that's exciting news, or it's pants on fire, in which is still hot.
True. Wardy, any reaction to that one?
Tornado.
Yep, that was
It's
fair,
happening.
That's a fair answer. All right, Christopher Ward, I'm back to you. The new Renegade diplomacy set, hot or not?
I mean, I don't know. I've not actually seen it. It's got to be hot to get new releases. It might, encourage more people into the hobby. Yeah, I've not actually seen it, so I can't comment on the specifics of the board and the pieces. But always got to be nice to have a nice facelift, right? So I hear.
Fair, Douglas.
I want to know why Wardy wasn't asked any of those uncomfortable questions like me and Tommy.
He was asked about why there's no leadership in the UK hobby, and I asked him for a reason.
Oh,
So I feel like you each, but anyway,
all right.
putting that
enough.
aside, don't argue with the question, Mr. Lawyer. The question is this a hot or not development that Renegade has issued a new diplomacy set last summer?
Okay, seriously, I think this is pretty hot. I haven't seen it, myself before just now, which I wish I could have had a look at what the set actually looks like. But I'm assuming it's a lot like the set I have at home, except for with a slight facelift. And
It's got wooden pieces for one thing.
what?
It's got wooden pieces.
Okay, that's very hot. I love that.
Yeah.
I want this. Someone who likes me out there, maybe I need to get a PO box. Someone who likes me out there needs to send me this.
Tommy,
Serious
what do you think? Hot
question,
or not?
David.
Yes.
You got me at wooden pieces.
Okay. Yes. Question, Christopher Ward.
I'm sorry to have interrupted there, chaps. Is this available worldwide?
I believe that it is. I believe there is a licensee in the UK, but I don't have that information handy right this minute.
My friend, I'm pleased to announce, was given by his partner a diplomacy set, and he's not played before, so I'm looking forward to introducing him to the game. But I don't think it was this one, so I wonder if the UK has a different market or something.
Well, it could be, and this set was literally just released in the summer, so it may not be available worldwide quite yet, potentially. All right, let's go to you, Douglas. Next question is the England-German alliance, the Anglo-Saxon, hot or not? Are you an EG fan or not?
Very hot, very fan. I think usually France gets the better of either of them, so they ought to, these two ugly ducklings ought to pair together instead.
Okay. What do you think, Tommy? EG? Are you an EG fan?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Because I like being Chaos Agent I like being Chaos Agent in general, but especially as Germany and work with I guess I don't know. France just always kind of annoys me, and which is funny because I'm mostly French, genetically speaking. But
yeah, I'm not sure what that says about you. I mean, I'm not a licensed psychologist. I feel like it does say something. Wardy, what do you think? EG forever, Anglo-Saxon. What do you think?
Very hot, very hot. Friends going way back. Germany's my favorite country to play, and I'm a Brit, so I've been playing a lot of EGs in Gunboat recently, which I think is probably indicative of where my heart's at on it. So I enjoy an EG as both.
Okay, all right. Tommy, the next question is for you.
Uh-oh. And
it is Australians to the rescue. Peter McNamara has announced that he is going to run another virtual tournament. We're down to basically 2 virtual-only tournaments. He is going to start a third one.
Okay.
And I believe it's going to be in late April. Peter McNamara, who does he think he is? Hot or not?
Wait, so this is in Australia or just virtual? You said virtual, sorry.
Well, I said virtual, so
Sorry, my bad.
that means-
I mean, that's pretty hot. I mean, if the kangaroos carry a punch, then it's definitely hot.
yeah, but Peter McNamara, who does he think he is? I mean, is he like the savior of the world? What's going on here?
I mean, I like Peter. Peter's a class act. I like. He's always every interaction I've had with him, he's always been a very gentile presence, or whatever that phrase is.
I don't know exactly what that means, but it's awesome. Douglas or Wardy, what do you think about Peter McNamara starting up another virtual tournament? Is this cool, or is this just about Peter McNamara?
Oh, I see what you're saying now.
I mean, the last person who did this, who started a virtual tournament, was a high school student. So I don't think there's a super high barrier to entry. I think we just want more people to do this, please.
Okay.
I mean,
Wardy, what do you think? World champion Peter McNamara.
Do you want me to start? I can start one if you want me to. I will carry through probably, but I can start one.
We'll come back to you. We'll come back to you with your promises later. We're not on that subject right now. Wardy, do you have any thoughts about another virtual tournament joining the circuit?
I think Peter McNamara is neither hot nor not. He is just logical. And I think there is space for another virtual tournament. For those that don't want to invest year long in a league, there's a gap for another standalone tournament, if that's what this is. And I think that'd be a welcome addition. I think people got used to a lot of virtual tournaments in the pandemic era, which thankfully we've left behind, but perhaps we lost and left behind a few too many tournaments as well.
Gotcha. All right. Well, speaking of people who I wonder who they think they are, I'm going to stick with you, Wardy, and ask you about Bradley Grace, this guy. Yes, he's upside down because he's a villain, just like from the Batman show. So the question with Bradley Grace is, who does he think he is? He wins Olympus, and then he wins the Tour of Britain. And, I mean, just who does Bradley Grace think he is? Is he hot or not? Chris Ford, I submitted this to you.
David, I'm disappointed you're making me do this on camera because I hate myself for it. But he is most certainly hot. He's winning everything that moves, and he's doing it with a smile, and it's fun to play with, even when he's twisting the knife into your flesh. And he's just improving so rapidly. He's already such a great player, and I don't see that he's going to hit a ceiling anytime soon.
All right. Any thoughts about him, Tommy or Douglas? Because if not, I'm going to go to you, Douglas, and say Jordan Connors, this guy.
Oh, I like him.
Who does he think he is? I mean, he won a prestigious gunboat event. He's basically a know-it-all about diplomacy. Conk, hot or not, Florida man?
I mean, as to who he thinks he is, it's right in the username. He thinks he is the conqueror of the world. The rest of us are just slowly finding out. So,
Tommy, you've already said you think Conk is.
Yeah, I mean,
in favor.
I always like him whenever I play with him. He's always great.
All right, Wardy, come on, tell me the truth.
I mean, I know you've got your beef with Conk, but he is most certainly hot as well. Who does he think he is? A sock puppet. Who is he? He's probably the greatest gunboat player there is.
He's very good.
I just don't know how I can go on with this subject, but I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going and ask you, Tommy Anderson, who does Saren Kwok think she is winning the Summer Classic again? She won it 2 years ago. She just got finished winning the VWDC Summer Classic virtual tournament again this summer. Who is Saren Kwok?
It's impressive. I just wish she would work well with me when we play together. That would really it'd be a nice change. But no, I mean, I'm always impressed with her play. I would love. I will see all the more why I want to go to one of the tournaments in person, because I would love to meet up with it. Like, there's so many people that I just want to like meet up with and just like.
Do you know who's going to be at Cascadia in a few weeks? Saren Kwok and Ed Sullivan, by the way, who's also on this picture.
Okay, you know what? In that case, I swear to God, right after this, I'm gonna book it. I'm told. If
I did
don't
not hear any lightning, but I don't know if I'm going to hear the lightning from where I am, because I don't know exactly where you are.
It's gonna happen. I'm gonna finish checking into my Airbnb, and then I'm totally gonna do that.
Okay,
why did it sound like you changed your mind and you decided to go just now? You promised it
No,
earlier.
no, I am. I don't know. That's me saying I am. I promise.
Douglas, I think you're a pretty insightful guy there. Let me now go to you, Wardy, and ask you a little more serious question. The DBNI, the DBN Invitational, revamped its structure in 2023 so that the preliminary games are winner take all, and then there's the second chance games, which are also winner take all. There's a different format for the DBNI. Is that hot or is that not?
Hot. That was a great move. I had great fun playing in it, even though I got crushed. I think that makes for more interesting games, and I think we had some just really top level play with everyone trying to win. A few too many French victories, but maybe we can have some more EGs to combat that. But yeah, I think that format made for some great spectacles, high level play, and a lot of fun.
By the way, we will come back to the issue of French strength in a little while. Tommy, I think you maybe were a commentator on last February's preliminary rounds, if I remember correctly. Do you remember how the structure changed at all?
I don't. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
My memory's terrible.
Well, yes, we know. By the way, you've made some promises. I know you can go back and watch.
That I can promise.
Douglas, let me go to you for the next subject. We've got new variants out there. This is one of them that David E. Cohen has just released called Sub-Sahara, I believe. There's some other new variants out there. Olympus has a new hoplite or a new ancient variant that's out there. What do you think about the new releases going on these days in the variant world?
It's a very exciting thing. I think this is really what I mean. I know David Cohen is a little bit older, but I was just going to say that this is something that I feel like my generation and the generation after mine is really bringing into the hobby, is trying to create a lot more variants. There are a lot of young people using digital design software and trying to add to this hobby that we all love so much. And this map in particular, I'm looking forward to trying out. David Cohen really always brings it when he makes maps. I don't think I've seen a decent map that was set in Africa before, so I'll look forward to checking this one out.
It can be hard because of the geography to make, there's not enough water interaction with the interior. That can be an issue with an Africa map, but he's limited it just to North Africa. I'm sorry, to Northwest Africa, and maybe that will be the kicker. Tommy, any thoughts about variants here?
I love variants. Like this is totally something I would, something I would totally play. I know this is gonna sound weird. Like, I love playing Risk variants. I know it's not quite diplomacy, but Risk, like, they have a lot of interesting like map designs and stuff like that too. Like, they do a lot of different like continental different designs and stuff. And I have played a similar, like, not this particular variant, but I've played something similar to this before, like how it's laid out.
Yeah, there have been some other attempts, as Douglas already said, to make a good Africa variant. Wardy, what do you think about new releases, not necessarily just Sub-Sahara, but also the new releases out there on the Olympus server and on other websites?
I took part in a play test probably about 18 months ago of one based on I think Saxon Britain. Which was fun. It only went a few years, but it was fun enough to make me perhaps look out for some others. And I like history, so it's always cool to geek out on various various maps. So yeah, keep them coming, guys, and I'll try and pull my finger out and dabble a bit more.
Well, by all means, pull your finger out of wherever it is. Tommy, let me get to you. We're going to talk about French power here.
There we go.
So the meta may be shifting a little bit with people really trying to counteract French power. We've seen it in a few recent tournaments. What do you think about it being the largely genetically Frenchman that you are?
And I also just soloed recently too. I just remembered in the SBD tournament. But I mean, I'm all for. Well, actually, I just had I had an amazing. Okay, so so I actually don't live in Boston. Sorry, this is a whole tangent. I don't live in Boston anymore, but I'm back here for the weekend, and I just went to this the Salty Pig in Copley, and oh my god, the best rillette, the best saucisson lyonnaise, everything. Oh my god, it was just amazing. I had with the pickles and the mustard and everything. Oh, it was so good. But anyways, French power. This is just me talking about food. I mean, I'm all for like in a really like hard on like aggressive French, like just like go for three builds right off the bat, just like do it because like people. The people are gonna be like, "Oh, you're being aggressive French." I'm like, "Okay, whatever. Like, fine." You're like, "Are you gonna question it? Or are you gonna attack me? Like, just go for it."
Okay. Well, what do you think, Douglas? The French meta has been really strong lately. Is there a turn in the force or a shift in the force here?
I agree with that. Yeah, things are very hot for France right now. France has always been kind of one of the hotter powers. You know, statistics going back decades show it's either number one or number two among the strongest powers on the diplomacy map. But I think once you get a uniformly high level of play, which I think we've gotten a lot of high level play in gaming recently, in diplomacy recently. Once you get there, then these natural advantages, like they seem to matter even more because you don't have necessarily an Italy or a Germany who's so much cleverer than the French player that the French advantage is nullified. So France walks away with it, maybe.
Gordy, what do you think? French power going to be countered in the meta of diplomacy or not? Or is it in the process of being countered already?
I think people are talking about it a lot, and it's not actually transpiring so much. I kind of wonder whether actually it should be a mid-game thing. I think there's been a few efforts to take France out in the early or push France back in the early game, but then when inevitably like EGI or whatever combination of the above gets sucked away somewhere else, France then comes back again, and they can have that sort of like corner power-esque bounce back in the mid game. I wonder whether it's not about jumping on them out the gate, but then just but keeping a closer eye on French growth in the mid game and making sure that it doesn't run away.
Well, it's a good point that the mid game is often where the thing does get away from everybody else. Let's stay with you, Wardy. I'm going to ask you about this. What do you think, hot or not, Olympus diplomacy as now sort of an alternative to just playing Nexus or Nexus Leagues events? Because Olympus has really come on this calendar year.
I'd say hot. You can't have too many. I'm playing in the Olympus press tournament right now and having fun doing it. It seems to be a good game I'm playing in the semi-finals. Had a good couple of games in the qualifying rounds. I didn't play in that first season, but it seemed like it did attract so many great players. Many of whom actually have played on Nexus, and some newer players who sort of came via like public press games and Backstabber and stuff, I believe. So yeah, another great community through which people can play and meet and all that. Yeah, I think
It comes out of the backstabber world as opposed to the play dip or the web dip world, I guess.
yeah, and I'm set up pretty much single-handedly by Bubs the Builder. So well done him.
True. All right, Douglas, do you have any thoughts about Olympus diplomacy?
So many thoughts. So even though I got taken out in the preliminary rounds this time, I think it's got a long and great future ahead of it. I really love the way that Bob's the Builder is responsive to feedback. Like, even thinking about the social media creators who are covering Olympus diplomacy, he decided to give the games interesting names this time, named them after gods, so that when we do YouTube videos about them, it makes the videos sound more interesting, gives them a cool title, instead of just, this is Olympus diplomacy tournament game 004 or something. This is the Ares diplomacy commentary. And, I think the fact that he is trying to get things right, that he's trying to make this the best thing that it can be, I think it only bodes well for the future, and I'm very happy it exists.
Even though it's clearly a direct threat to Nexus. I'm just throwing that out there.
I haven't been playing on Nexus.
Well, I don't even think it's a direct threat. They were going to argue with me there and say it's a friendly competition. Tommy, do you have any thoughts about Olympus as a place to play extended deadline?
I unfortunately have not played on Nexus. So perhaps maybe that'd be another promise for me to.
I'm not asking you to make it. No, I'm not asking you to make that promise. I'm not going to do it. In fact, Douglas, let's move back to you. Speaking of Nexus, they have a new Cold War tournament starting this month of the Cold War variant, the two-player variant. What do you think about Cold War itself or Nexus, the Cold War tournament?
I'm glad we won. I think that was hot like 30 years ago. Like just before I was born, it was hot. And, I think the Cold War has mostly been kind of cool since then, but I think it's an interesting variant. I have never actually played it, but I might, maybe I'll check it out. I mean, since there's a tournament for it, that might increase my interest. And I'm glad that there's a variant game that's getting this kind of attention.
Well, and a two-player variant, which of course is hard to pull off in most situations, but this is a variant that was obviously designed as a two-player game and therefore plays much differently. Ward, have you ever played Cold War or played in the Cold War tournament, either one?
I haven't. I did play in Olympus's France versus Austria, and that told me I was terrible at tactics. Because out of my
you could have saved some time and just called me, and I would have told you. It would have saved you some time.
I think I drew one and I won one and lost 5. So that was my record. Maybe I should join the Cold War and try and improve my tactics.
Maybe, perhaps. Tommy, let me go to you for the next subject, which is basically Craig Mayer, everyone's favorite hobby gynecologist, has announced that he's going to bring SkyCon back, his tournament in Montana. He's going to bring it back. So can we trust him to do that? Or is he a trustworthy person as a doctor? I don't actually know. What do you think, Tommy Anderson?
Did you not have it last year or no?
He did not have it. He hasn't had it in a few years, actually.
Oh, okay. I remember the first year he did it. Like it was like it wasn't during COVID, was it?
No, it was before COVID.
Before okay, yeah. Yeah, I could see him doing it. I mean, if it went off without a hitch the first time, I'm hoping it would go well the second time. Or is it like what would this be, like the third or fourth time? Or?
It would be perhaps the second one.
Second, okay, yeah.
And I assume you're going to go to this. Right?
I was gonna say I'll go.
In Montana, I mean it's big sky country, which is why they call it sky.
I've never been. I would love to go skiing in Montana. That'd be fun if it's the weather's good. Or, I don't know what time of year that. When is it? Oh, it's in the summer though, isn't it?
Probably the summer. Yeah, it's probably the summer. Now you can go skiing if you want. I'm not saying you can't.
Yeah. That'd be
Wardy,
fun.
what do you think? Craig Mayer, trustworthy, untrustworthy?
Hey, look, I can't have a go at a fellow board brother. So good luck with it, Craig. Yeah, Montana's a bit far to go, but I just want to say, I think Craig has the best backstabber handle in diplomacy, which is OBGYN Kenobi.
Yeah.
True. It is a pretty good handle. Douglas, any thoughts about a tournament in Montana?
Well, I do question how many people he'll be able to gather in Montana itself, but people there are always people willing to fly in. I hear Montana is a beautiful part of the country. And as for him as an OBGYN, I just want to note what a trustworthy looking picture he has. And obviously I don't need that type of doctor, but if you did, wouldn't you want someone who has like that?
I mean, it's a trustworthy looking picture, but pictures can be retouched, is all I'm saying. You can't really take these things at face value anymore because you hear about all these deep fake photographs. So.
That's true.
All right, let's go back to you, Christopher Ward. And the question is, hot or not, Jelte Kuiper winning the European Diplomacy Championship, first time a Dutchman has won.
Very, very, very hot. And we've agreed that I must call him Supreme Overlord while he holds the title. So well done, Supreme Overlord. Brilliant to have someone from a new nation winning and someone really young winning as well. I don't know what the previous ages of champions have been, but Jelte's really got to be challenging for that record, I should think. So yeah, really, really well done. I enjoyed his write-up in the briefing as well.
Certainly challenging for biological age. The mental age of some of the people that have won this tournament, I'm not sure is much older than Jelte Kuiper, but biologically,
well,
I think you're onto something. Tommy, any thoughts about Jelte Kuiper winning the EDC this past November?
I have never met him, but I very much look forward to the one time that I travel. Hopefully, we'll get to meet each other.
You never know. Douglas, have you ever been able to play with Jelte Kuiper before?
I've never even visited the continent. I've been to Britain, but never to the actual mainland of Europe.
Well, he plays a lot of virtual. Jelte does.
Okay.
So what's his screen name?
It's a good question that I don't remember, so I'm going to ask you a different question, which is, Douglas,
Liberty.
Hot or not, the revamped, relaunched, regional cons, the Liberty Cup in Philadelphia, the Regatta in Denver, how hot is that?
So I was really happy to be able to go to the Liberty Cup in Philadelphia. Bill Hackenbracht did a great job of running the tournament. We only had about 8 people show up, so naturally I did make the top board. But besides the fact that there weren't that many people, there was great enthusiasm at the tournament. It was a very fun atmosphere. Philadelphia is a great place to have a board game tournament, I think, and it was just good fun.
Well, it was. What do you think, Tommy, about the revamped sort of relaunch attempt to try to get those regional cons back to where they were in the old days? Regatta, by the way, had a nice turnout this past season.
Yeah, no, I love the idea. I actually kind of feel guilty because I know we have some like Boston house games, and I feel guilty about not participating. Well, I'm not really in the. I guess I really should. Well, I feel guilty about before because I was actually in the area before. But no, I think it's a great idea in terms of like getting people to. Sorry, there's things going on in the Airbnb. My apologies. Noise wise. But I think it's just a great idea in terms of like getting people Well, even just like locally too, I remember in Boston too. Like we would play like Dip at the Bar, like we play at like Nightshade Brewery in Everett, Mass, and we play in different places. And we would get like a lot of people who liked to play board games but hadn't necessarily played diplomacy. So you kind of get like people kind of new into the hobby, which was nice.
And that's
Sorry.
a very nice thing.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of convention winners, what do you think, Tommy Anderson? You have experience watching other people win DixieCon. What do you think, maybe even participating in people winning DixieCon? What do you think about Michaela Scommarides winning this year's DixieCon/DibCon back in May?
Well, first of all, I love McCullis, so I'm glad he won. I will admit I did not really follow along what in terms of what happened, but like I know he's a great player, so I'm sure he did very well. Well,
do you yourself have any experience with people winning DixieCon on boards that you participated in? I'm just asking the question.
Wait, do I?
I don't know. Did Karthik Conniff once?
Oh, that one.
win?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
None of the rest of us have. None of the rest of us have.
Oh, yeah, Karthik stole me that one. I totally forgot about that. Oh, Karthik's fun to play with. Actually, he's the only one I've actually met in person in Boston. That he came in and oh god, we had a hell of a time. The whole night that we went to like oh my god, we were out till like 3 a.m.
Well, you can meet a lot more players by
That's
going
true.
to Cascadia in a few weeks, which
I'm down for it.
We can't wait to see how you do at Cascadia. Wardy, let me go to you, and I'm just going to say it. Ed Sullivan, he won the regatta in Denver. His back channel is everywhere. When is enough on Ed Sullivan? Hot or not?
Well, I'm going to say not. And this might be controversial, and I love Ed. He talks a good game and plays a good game, but I think something's got to give, and his virtual success has been lacking this year. I mean, maybe he's just turning up to tournaments and like sprinkling something in the drinks of those he's trying to fake interview at the game table. But yeah, he's not able to do that in virtual, and it's showing. Sorry.
Douglas, any thoughts here about Ed Sullivan and when is enough for this guy?
I'm going to say that I think Ed Sullivan's still running red hot because, most of us have never won any tournaments. And I think the answer is never enough.
Oh, gosh. All right. Tommy, please come in here and say something either about Ed Sullivan or Karthik Conniff again. He's right in the same picture here. Or both. They're both Texas Longhorns.
That's true. Nice things or bad things?
Things that you think are accurate. Okay. This is a hot or not question, and clearly Ed Sullivan is everywhere. Is that hot or is that just not?
I mean, he's a chatty fellow. He's got a lot of good things to say. So I don't know if that's hot or not, but
it sounds like you're giving the wrong answer, which is clearly that Ed Sullivan is not hot. So I'm going to go. I'm instead going to just go on to the next question. And this is for you, Douglas, and it is: Diplomacy World has reached its 50th anniversary. It was first published in 1974. It just got published again in 2024. Forgot the issue number. But Diplomacy World as a magazine has been around for 50 years, hot or not?
Scorching hot. Gotta love it, We have to have some lasting institutions in this hobby. And good to see Diplomacy World around right now.
Yeah, how about you, Wardy? What do you think? Diplomacy World reaching its 50th year.
I didn't know that was the case. Happy birthday, Diplomacy World. Fantastic. As Douglas says, it's great to have these institutions. It's not just David Hood who's been around for so long. I've got to say, I don't read it nearly as much as I should do. I dip in and out, no pun intended. But yeah,
I see what you did there.
fantastic. Okay, yeah.
That was what I was avoiding saying.
But yeah, happy anniversary, Diplomacy World, and yeah, keep up the good work.
Right. All right, Tommy, let me go to you for the next question. And it is now time for predictions. All right.
Oh.
So predictions,
Oh.
the DBN Invitational is coming up. The top 7 players as we speak right now in the DBNI qualifications are Bradley Grace, Jackson Roberts, Saren Kwok, Ed Sullivan, Michalis Kamarites, Nicolas Taillé, and Matthew Krill.
Oh.
Now, any of those names, are you going to predict going to win this year's DBNI, or could be another name because the qualification season is not quite done yet?
That's true.
Anybody else that you think, any of those people or anybody else you want to make a prediction to who's going to win this year's DBNI?
Well, I know all of them, and I like all of them. You know what? I'm just gonna throw it. I like Nicolas. I like Nicolas.
All right, you like Taillé, Nicolas Taillé winning the DBNI. Okay.
Yeah, I could see it.
And you're saying that because he's French.
Well,
right?
yeah, oh yeah, that too. Yeah, forgot about that.
right.
Yeah, I'm totally not biased.
Of course not. Of course not.
Wardy,
make a prediction here.
Or Saren or Nicolas.
Oh, he's backtracking. All right, so is it Saren or is it Nicolas Taillé? Give us an answer.
All right, you know what? I'm gonna go with Saren.
All right, Saren Kwok is the answer. Wardy, what do you say? DBNI prognostication. Who is going to win this edition of the DBNI?
Michalis Kamarites, and not just because he's British. I think, despite being a constant threat, and despite winning DixieCon and being North American champion, somehow he still manages to be, in my opinion, underrated. And I think that can only speak to just how good a player he is. And you can see when he's doing commentary and talking about the game, he has a fantastic strategic mind. And I would love to see him just have a performance that really just says to everyone, don't underestimate me again.
Yeah.
All right, Douglas, do you want to wade into this, or do you want to have a vote here on DBNI champ? That those top 7 are just some of the people that might be in competition.
Well, I'm not deeply familiar with any of them, but I will say that I feel like the name that I hear most often and hear the most hype around is Bradley Grace.
Yeah, Bradley Grace certainly appreciates the fact that you just said that. So that's something. All right, I'm going to go now to you, Christopher Ward. The Virtual Diplomacy League Championship is coming up later this month. As I'm sure you know, the 7 finalists who have made it to that VDL top board are Nicolas Taillé, Matthew Tatanchi, Jackson Roberts, Ben Kelman, Peter McNamara, Michalis Kamarites, and one Christopher Ward. So make a prediction here. Who is going to win the VDL championship in a totally unbiased manner, Christopher Ward?
Come here.
Okay, I'm listening.
Me.
Got it. Okay, fair. That's great. 7 seeds can win tournament. I mean, I think they can. I'm sure your turkey will do just fine. I'm sure your turkey will be doing just fine in the VDL finals. Tommy, come on, give us a thought here. I gave you the 7 finalists of the VDL.
I gotta go with Wardy. You gotta
go with Wardy. Okay,
I gotta go.
All right,
yeah.
We got 2 votes. Now, Douglas, you don't have to necessarily know all these players. Give us a vote anyway. It was Matthew Tatanchi, not Bradley Grace. He came in 8th and therefore missed the VDL finals. Sorry, Bradley.
Oh.
Nicolas Taillé, Matthew Tatanchi, Jackson Roberts, Ben Kelman, Peter McNamara, Michalis Kamarites, or a young man named Christopher Ward.
I think this Christopher Ward fellow sounds pretty strong.
Wow. All right, so it is a unanimous selection for Christopher Ward winning the VDL. All right, Douglas, back to you
Does
for
that
predictions.
Does that
Don't
count?
don't mess it up.
Play the game.
This is it counts. It counts way more than the actual event because
Thanks.
don't you want to be loved? Don't you want to be? It's more important to be loved than feared, honestly.
That's true.
So I mean, I think. All right, Douglas. Serious prediction time. Which of these two panelists that you were on this panel with will our audience think is hot or not based on their? I'm sorry, that will think they are not hot based on their answers during this panel discussion. So Tommy and Wardy, which of these is going to get the thumbs down from our audience? You have to answer.
So I apologize in advance.
No, you don't.
You know it's you.
I know.
Only because of the highly evasive and very questionable answers to certain questions.
It's called diplomacy.
But you know, if he actually goes to
now.
Cascadia, now wait a minute,
That's
if he
true.
actually goes to Cascadia, that could turn this voting around, couldn't it?
That's true.
Yes, that would turn everything around. Actually, then,
Particularly if Christopher Ward crashes and burns in the VDL final, which is a possibility.
that's a good point. Then
I'm just
that would
throwing
make
that out there.
that would just make myself and Tommy look very supportive, and make Mr. Ward look kind of self-aggrandizing and overconfident.
All right. Well, I'm gonna give a final question to you, Tommy. Prediction time. Which of your promises today
Oh God.
is more likely to actually happen? Which of your promises is more likely to actually happen and therefore not be a broken promise, Tommy Tornado Anderson?
The most recent tournament that's coming up, because I do have a history of at least like booking things like very last minute. So
Do you even remember what the current?
no, I don't. I was actually going to ask you. I don't even remember the name. Cascadia.
Cascadia.
Was it? Okay, it was Cascadia. Okay.
Wow.
I know
Is the
my
answer.
memory is terrible.
That bodes well.
It is, by the way, in early February. You have a little time to make this promise come true.
Well, so when I went to Vancouver for that, like the 40th or 50th, whatever it was, like I booked that literally like 2 days before. So like I'm willing to book things like literally the day before.
we are willing to believe that you are going to do this particular promise,
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I promise.
while knowing that the chances
See, but
what
that's
they
the
are.
exciting part, is because it will surprise you.
it will certainly be a tornado of a time. All
Just
right,
let me-
guys.
just
Thanks.
tell me you win. Sorry.
Yeah, you could win. You've won tournaments before,
That's true. Barely.
but you can't win if you don't play. Just
That's
throwing that.
Yeah,
out.
hang on. You won Cascadia.
I have, yes.
Oh God.
For the people in the audience, for the people in the comments, higher odds of Tommy showing up to Cascadia or Henry Kissinger?
Oh, Jesus.
It's no, Jesus isn't going to come either. I don't think. I mean, Jesus is always with us, but I think we're
That's
talking
true.
about actually entering the tournament. I don't think so. All right, guys, I appreciate you all being on Hot or Not and giving us your very well thought out and insightful answers to these questions. There were a couple of them I thought were at least somewhat legitimate answers, and maybe we'll do this all again next January.
Look forward to it.
I hope so.
Just hunt me down Discord. Oh, sorry.
Highlight of my year already.
It will be the highlight of our year when we see the coverage for Cascadia and Tommy is there. Thanks to all of you watching at home. We hope you have enjoyed this broadcast of Deadline. If you have news, ideas for features, or feedback of any kind, please feel free to send an email to info@diplobn.com, or you can drop me a line directly using davidhood@dixiecon.com. To review all of our broadcast offerings, visit our website, www.diplobn.com. This is David Hood signing off. I wish you brightness and bliss and, of course, Belgium.